First, live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
And hello, everyone. I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Fox 12 Now. Appreciate you joining us here today. We get to talk about a lot of different topics, interviews, all kinds of different things. And today we're talking about something that you've probably definitely seen in the news, especially if you like getting out onto the rivers or lakes. You may have seen the warnings about toxic algae blooms, something to be aware of. Now, we see these happen every year in different areas, but today we're going to talk about what exactly that means, what they are, how they happen, how to stay safe around them, everything that encompasses that. And to do so, we have an expert joining us right now, and that is the Healthy Waters Program Coordinator for the Oregon Health Authority. We have Curtis Cude. Curtis, thanks for being here with us. You know, I know even just on our newscast today, we were talking about some different warnings that were coming out about Sauvie Island, some different areas around that in particular, but there's a lot that are going on with that. And I think maybe to start off for everybody, let's go to the base level. And I see this from your website. There's the term cyanobacteria. Can you explain what that means and really what all of these toxic algae warnings are about?
Yeah, sure. You know, for a long time, people have referred to this as blue-green algae. And, you know, what we're talking about is actually a bacteria called cyanobacteria. And the thing that's different about this bacteria is it actually uses photosynthesis to create its food, just like algae. So it can be green like algae. It occurs in water like algae. But the other thing to know about cyanobacteria is you can find cyanobacteria on land and on building surfaces and pretty much everywhere. Another good thing to know about cyanobacteria is cyanobacteria was one of the things that first produced the vast amount of oxygen in our atmosphere to give us the you know the atmosphere that we enjoy today. So one of the bad parts about cyanobacteria is that it does at times produce a toxin that we call cyanotoxin, and there are many different kinds of cyanotoxins that can have different effects on people and animal and other organisms.
And so I think that's interesting. So technically, it's not, we call it blue-green algae, but it's not actually algae.
Exactly.
Okay. I mean, I think that's a great history of it too. That's fascinating that it actually produced the atmosphere really that we're using right now. Going to it now though, like what are some of the warning signs, I guess, of seeing it, and like how do you recognize what that is versus just regular algae that you would see on a lake or river in a normal circumstance?
Well, we'll start with that last part first. When you see algae in the water, usually it's something that's clumpy. You can pick it up and it'll be like, you know, a clump of plant-like matter that stays in your hand. And when you're dealing with cyanobacteria, it might look like little dots or little grass clippings or something else, or like a scum. And that's, I mean, when you pick up those type of cyanobacteria, it's more likely to just flow through your hand. It's not going to stay in a clump. Now, something else about cyanobacteria are we can think of them in two different groups. One type of cyanobacteria, the phytoplankton, they will float in the water column. So you see those floating on the top, or sometimes they're below the surface, moving up and down throughout the course of the day, depending on where they can best survive at that point in time. There's another type of cyanobacteria that's called benthic cyanobacteria, and that means benthic means it's something that's growing on the bottom. It can be on the sand on the bottom, on rocks. It can be on logs and other surfaces, and it'll remain attached there. And sometimes those benthic cyanobacteria will become loose, and you'll see a mat of kind of scummy stuff that'll come up, and maybe it'll wash up on the shore. So that's a different sort of problem that we can talk about as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, let's discuss that too, because I think it's really interesting to learn, you know, I think for a lot of people, it may not be something that they pay attention to. And obviously this is an important thing to know these differences. So yeah, let's talk about that.
Great, great. Well, we'll start again with the floating type of cyanobacteria, and for the longest time we've provided the message that if the water looks foamy or scummy, it's thick like paint, pea green, it can be reddish brown, blue green color. That's a sure sign of cyanobacteria, and that's something that you want to avoid. You don't want to ingest, you don't want to drink that water or allow your dog to eat that cyanobacteria or to lick its fur. So, if the water looks bad, when in doubt, it's best to stay out.
Okay.
Now, yeah, so that's that floating or planktonic cyanobacteria. Now, the benthic cyanobacteria, you may have heard over the last year or two, and one good example is up in the Tri-Cities area along the Columbia River, about dogs dying from cyanotoxins in water that look clear, and that's a result of benthic cyanobacteria, and that's kind of scary because again, that's different than looking for something that looks like a paint spill in the river or something that's obviously gross. And so our what we're trying to get the message out now about benthic cyanobacteria is if you see these a scummy mat that's washed up on the shore, you definitely want to avoid that. And this is, you don't want to eat that stuff. So you want to keep your dogs away from those sort of scummy mats. If you see your dog rooting around on the bottom, then that's something you want to prevent from happening as well. But while we're talking about dogs, I just want to say that there are a couple of other situations where dogs in water can be a bad combination, and that can be in times where you're playing with your dog for a long time at the lake, and one thing that can happen is that dog can really become overexerted and have a heat-related illness, and that can cause some of the same sort of symptoms as exposure to cyanotoxins. Or the dog could drink so much water throughout the day in that process that they sort of, I guess, deionize themselves and dilute their body's chemistry, and that can also cause problems that look like a cyanotoxin exposure. So these are just the things that you want to look at as a dog owner when you're out with your pet out at the waterside.
And I definitely want to get into that too a little bit more, just talking about pets, because I know that's a concern for everybody. When you're talking about I believe you said it was benthic, and I could have that name wrong.
No, that's right.
Benthic. Okay, so and that's stuff that you're not going to be able to see in the water, which that's kind of terrifying. But looking for the identifying, I guess, factors are the mats that are washed ashore. So if you see that, then that's a sign that could be there, and to avoid that. Is that right?
That's right. Or yeah, it could be like you see or feel like a scum on the bottom as you're walking through. It can grow together with green algae. So you're right. That is kind of terrifying to think about. But I think the main thing to remember is it's not necessarily that you're touching it that's a problem. It's if you eat it and gets into your body, that's when the cyanotoxins are going to be at its most dangerous. Any of these cyanobacteria can have something that's called an endotoxin that can cause a rash on your skin. So you might notice that when you're going in the water, and that rash will usually take care of itself within a few days. It's irritating. It can be itchy. It'll take care of itself. I suppose the situations where you'd want to be concerned about skin exposure would be if you have open wounds on your skin. Then that could lead to further infection.
So stay out. Yeah, if you have an open wound, and I mean, obviously don't eat it or drink it. And not doing that part. One thing I wanted to just ask, because I go into a lot of rivers and lakes here in the north, just like everybody else, and a lot of times there is, that kind of green scummy stuff on the bottom, as you, for lack of a better description, which I think that everybody will know what that means. When you're walking in, especially along the banks, is that something specifically you should be worried about, or are there other forms of vegetation or naturally occurring things that aren't something to be worried about?
I mean, part of that is probably regular green algae. As I said, those benthic cyanobacteria can grow in the green algae. So, you might be walking on, it's possible that you're walking on cyanobacteria, but again, that in and of itself shouldn't be a cause for concern. Again, it's more about, preventing, eating that stuff. That's what you don't want to do.
What are some of the environmental factors that, I guess, facilitate the growth of these cyanobacteria?
Well, the main thing is nutrients. So, the more phosphorus specifically, and then can also be nitrogen that's in the water to help feed the algae, the more likely it is to grow. We also observe when these blooms happen in the summer. So as the water gets warmer, that just in general for, I guess, all life really fosters growth. So we'll see more of that during the summer. And, depending on the specific water body and what's going into it, we can see harmful algae or harmful cyanobacteria blooms happen anytime from late spring, and sometimes they'll hang on well into the fall, into the early winter.
Are there specific areas that are more prone to it than others, or could this really just kind of happen anywhere?
Well, I mean, it could generally happen anywhere. The thing is that we are just at the point of building some routine monitoring with our partners at DEQ to go out and look. There's a lot of water in the state. There's a lot of places to look. So, so the balance there is try to figure out how to monitor in places where the risk of exposure is the greatest, and how we can best get the word out to everyone about how to how to avoid those situations where you might find yourself coming in contact with cyanotoxins. So there's a lot of outreach and education that goes into this, and your show is a great example of us all getting the word out.
Well, I wanted to. I mean, I think this is really important to learn about this too. Actually, before I go to the website, because I wanted to show some different things, resources that people can have. You mentioned the testing and partnering with people to go out and do the testing. And there's a lot of water. There's a lot of water in the state of Oregon, so a lot of places to do that. So how often do tests happen? And to follow up to that, are there ways that ordinary people can help you out by recognizing things and calling attention to them?
Sure. I did mention DEQ before, but we also partner with many other partners that are responsible for managing natural resources or managing dams, managing recreational facilities, some public health partners as well. So, we really rely on those folks who are in the local areas to first of all, to observe something that looks like a harmful cyanobacteria bloom. Some of those partners have the capacity to take samples and send them in and get them analyzed for cyanotoxins. And that's what we're really looking for. It's not simply the presence of the cyanobacteria that's a problem. It's whether or not whether or not there are cyanotoxins present in levels that are of concern. And so I was just going to say most of the monitoring that happens is really related to seeing a bloom take place.
Gotcha. And I'm showing here right now a video too. This is from the website that gives a little bit more of a description and kind of shows what some of this stuff is. I think it's great. And in addition to that, there's a little showing of the website, and I've got the website pulled up here too. Just showing, a lot of educational materials on here. So I wondered if you could just kind of give everybody an idea here of what we're looking at here with the website and what they can learn from this.
Yeah, sure. First of all, the shortcut, the easy way to remember our website is healthoregon.org/HAB or HAB. And what you'll find on there is a lot of information that'll inform you about cyanobacteria, harmful algae blooms. We have an outreach and education component to our website that includes posters, that includes actually a comic, and some other materials that we use to help educate and inform different communities. We also have there's that, I think that blue button that's there will take you right to,
Yeah,
yeah, our current advisories.
yeah,
And yeah, so that's important, a resource for people to see what's going on right now. But what I will say is, with a caveat, that we can't be everywhere. The collective we can't be monitoring all of the waters in the state at any given time. So this is what we know about. Um, and with our educational outreach materials out there, we're hoping that gives you the information that you need, when you go out to the water, to make an informed decision about, whether you want to go in the water or what you want to do. Because, after all, when you go to the lake, it's great to go swimming, but there's a lot of other things you can do too. Just simply waiting is fine. Bird watching, catch and release fishing, a fly kite, any of those other
yeah.
activities that you can do. So I just want to also make clear that with our recreational advisories, they are advisories. We're not closing those natural resources, and so again, that's why we encourage people to still visit those resources and take advantage of those wonderful, beautiful facilities.
I think yeah, that was a key thing, and even in my email to you all yesterday, you were clarifying that too, or somebody did. Just these are advisories. It's not closed, but it's a fair warning that there are dangers there, and this is something that you're getting out to the public, which I think is really important. So that page showcasing that was great. You mentioned some other things. I've got a dog, just like probably half the population here. So I was reading through this, and I thought this was a really good kind of reiterating what you were saying earlier, but just advice on that and what to look out for if your dog is getting into the water and some of the different things that could affect it. This is some good information. So
Yeah.
swallowing, yeah, dogs, swimming in and swallowing water affected by toxic algae. So before you let your pet in, yeah, I guess it would be good advice to give a good check of that water first, right?
Yeah, sure. And the other advice that we would give you would be, if possible, when your dog comes out of the water, rinse it off with clean water.
Gotcha.
And yeah, so that'll help, prevent your dog from licking or and eating any algae, or I should say, cyanobacteria that could be stuck on its fur, and then cause problems. And then the other thing to know is, if this happens really quick, and it can happen within a half an hour, that your dog could start staggering, could start to convulse. If you see that, you need to get to a veterinarian as soon as possible, to have a chance at saving your pet.
Wow, I mean this is such good information. I mean, so important to know all of this, and I didn't think about that, washing the dog off after the dog comes out of the pond or the river. So I'll be doing that from now on, and making sure and watching out for all these safety things. Again, a lot of great safety tips and guidelines there on that website, and we'll give that website again too, just for everybody to know. But anything else that you think people should know about here? With this, I mean, you've given a lot of information here. I don't know if there's anything else though that you want to advise people on.
Yeah, I think again the main thing is, to know the signs of a harmful cyanobacteria bloom. If it looks funny, if it looks like really bright blue green, reddish brown, foamy, looks like a paint spill. If it smells really bad, that's a good indication that you want to stay out.
Those are good advice right there. Yeah, if it smells bad, don't go in there. Shouldn't go in there anyway. Well, well, Curtis, I want to say thank you very much, for sharing this information and getting this out, and just for everybody to help understand what's going on with the waterways and what to watch out for. That's all great advice and a lot there at the website. And can we get that website one more time?
Sure, it's Health Oregon. That's all one word. healthoregon.org/HAB.
/HAB. So go there and you can find all those different guidelines that Chris was talking about, and a lot of great stuff on there, and a great video too that goes through it and explains a little bit more about what's going on. Chris, thank you very much for taking some time to talk about this. It's really important, and appreciate you being here and sharing your knowledge and education for everybody.
Yeah, thanks, Greg, for helping us spread the word. Appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I will say I certainly learned a lot right there, and I'm going to be doing some more research. So anybody, safety for yourself, but for your pets too. That's obviously something you want to be concerned with. And I'm going to be doing a better job of checking out the waterways before I let my dog loose into the water from now on. And for everybody watching, thank you very much for joining us. This is Fox 12 Now. I'm Greg Nibbler. We broadcast live from our digital desk here at the Fox 12 Oregon headquarters, the newsroom, and we get to cover a lot of different topics, including things like this that are just educational for everybody. Coming up here at 1:30 p.m. Pacific on today, if you're watching live, come back and join me. I've got Eric G. from Around the House Northwest, and actually kind of spinning off of this, we're talking about algae here. We're going to be talking about mold in that segment. It just so happened that it coordinated out, so something else to watch out for in your own home. And that's, again, coming up here at 1:30 p.m. Pacific, so you can hop right back on whatever platform you're watching on, whether that's YouTube or Facebook or our apps, our website. We're on all of those. We'll be right back there in just a little bit. In the meantime, though, if you want to watch the rest of our videos, they're at Fox 12 Oregon's YouTube channel. Lots of stuff there to check out. But signing off just for a minute right now, just a few minutes, and I'll be back soon. I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Fox 12 Now.